Hello, everybody, and welcome in to Blue Jays Today, folks, where today, as we are getting closer to the trade deadline, to the All-Star break, it's time for us to do one of the full-on trade deadline previews, predictions. We are going to look at this Toronto Blue Jays roster top to bottom, looking at the needs of us as well as, I guess in this instance, this year, the needs of other teams, because probably going to be sellers, right? And really breaking down who could get moved, what could a deal look like involving with those guys? Because everybody's saying, oh, trade Danny. Well, what does that look like, right? Trading Jimmy Garcia, what does that look like? We're going to break down all of that, as well as the latest trade rumors surrounding this squad. Who are some teams that could be eyeing up Yusei Kikuchi? Who wants the Cooch to get loose on their squad? All of that and more in this one. I'm your host, Nicholas Playlog.
I'm your host, Adam Peddle. Happy Monday. An afternoon all, saying Sophie. Yes, everybody. Even though the Blue Jays are coming off a glorious series win, the first in a while, it doesn't change things for the Toronto Blue Jays that are still, I believe it's 8 games below 500.
8 games, yeah.
And it doesn't change a single narrative. The Blue Jays are still going to be sellers at this deadline. And what we're going to do in this video, like Nick said, we're going to break down virtually every single potential trade the Blue Jays could make in this video here. So if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Blue Jays Today. Now, I wanted to start. I wanted to start first before we break in and start talking about each guy. You brought up a good, interesting point. What is the needs of the Toronto Blue Jays right now? Because if we're going into this trade deadline, well, before we start talking about trading individual guys, well, what are the Blue Jays trying to accomplish this deadline? And maybe another question, what should they be trying to accomplish this upcoming trade deadline?
That is the most important question, I think, for a lot of Blue Jays fans, and the one that we are still trying to figure out, right? Ross Atkins navigating his words and deciphering what it is that he's saying, it's an impossible task. And whenever this guy gets up and has a press conference, I mean, if you can take anything away of value, like, you've done a good job, because very rarely does he say anything with a whole lot of substance. I think that what he has come out and said and let us know is that everything is on the table, and even though he doesn't want to trade away guys, he would be willing to if that is the best thing for the team, which I think at this point, just to set the ground level right here, we can agree is the best thing for the team. If they were going to go out and they were going to buy this year, it would require an entire overhaul of guys. You're looking at a new bullpen. You're looking at 3 to 4 to 5 additional big-time hitters coming into this team. You're looking at another starter. That is what it would take for the Toronto Blue Jays team to get back into the competitive window. So we can certainly all agree that selling is the right thing to do. The question now is, how big of a sell? And when you're looking to sell off these guys, let's say it's a Yusei Kikuchi, let's say it's a Danny Jansen, what have you, are you looking for a prospect that is 3 to 4 years away? Like, are you looking for one of those 18-year-olds that maybe one day could be a guy, maybe you never hear from him again, right? Like, is that the type of player that you're looking at? Or are you more interested in somebody that could play now or help your team win next year, right? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, depending on which guy you want in return, you have to give up a return, because guys who are many, many years away in rookie ball, single A, that are still have question marks around their names, not highly touted prospects, are going to cost a lot less. They're going to cost you, and we'll break it down a little further, the cheap one-year rental guys that are kind of meh. You might be able to get something like that. If you're looking for a guy to turn around this window sooner rather than later, then that's going to cost you a little bit more, like some of these 2-year, 3-year guys that are actually good and potential all-stars on this team. So it all depends, again, what are you trying to do with this next rebuild window? Are you trying to tool it faster, or are you doing a conservative sell? And that's what it comes down to. We don't know yet.
Quick shout out here, a donation, $2 donation. Can't say your name, but to Jay right there. Hey, but we got Springer. He's been good for 2 games. That's very true, right? And that could tie into what it is that they're looking at doing here. Springer has been good at baseball, and if Springer was terrible at baseball for the entirety of the season, which right now he's turning around, we don't know how this season's going to end, but hopefully if he can continue on this trajectory, then at least that instills you with a little bit of confidence, like, oh, okay, we could enter 2025 and maybe have an actual player here in George Springer, whereas a month ago we were looking at a complete dead spot there that you're paying $25 million to. So that right there, the fact that he's been good at baseball, even though it doesn't mean a whole lot for this year, assuming they don't go on some magical run, it is nice to know for the following season. And that is something that we got to factor in too, right? Who's going to stay on this team and are they going to finish hot? Is Alejandro Kirk going to turn it around? Because if he can be good at baseball, well, that really impacts how you feel about Danny Jansen and an extension there and a trade there and everything like that. So there is still a lot of question marks here. To circle back and answer your question about, well, what is the right thing for this team to do? I've gone back and forth on this quite a bit because on one hand, you have Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who is still locked in for next year. You do still have Bo Bichette, although what are we going to get there? We don't know. You got Kevin Gausman for a couple more. You got Jose Barrios for a couple more. You got Chris Bassitt locked in for next year. So you have a bit of a pitching rotation. You have a couple guys on that offensive side of the ball that if they can turn it around, there is a reality where you could be good. On the flip side, though, I'm having a hard time seeing everyone righting the ship for next year. And that is what it would require. It would require everyone to get back to where they were. And then you add in the offseason. And then you make trades in the offseason. So,
because if you're looking at where we are in this offseason, I mean, looking at the guys just leaving the payroll this year, you maybe got, $40 to $30 million to play with, which was kind of the budget we had this offseason as well. We don't have that much room to really go out and spend and acquire new talent to really change this team around. But just assuming right now, based on everything that's been going on and based the way the Toronto Blue Jays and Ross Atkins has managed this organization, you have to assume that the Blue Jays are going to, at least with under Ross Atkins' control, going to look to compete in 2025.
I still think that is what they're going to do. I don't know if that's the right decision. I think that ultimately the best thing for this team moving forward, and it would fucking suck because it would require us to go through what is probably going to be a very dark time. But the best thing moving forward would be to cut as many ties as possible, get as many assets as you can, and then, 2026, 2027. Now we're talking, right? That is obviously way down the line, and it's impossible to predict. And I also don't think that's what they're going to do. I think that they're probably going to be looking to hold on to the Kevin Gausmans, hold on to the Guerreros, maybe the Bo Bichettes as well, and then give it one more last ride in 2025. All of that being said, let's take a look right now at the guys that you could ship off here and start to talk about a little bit, what's the most likely to leave and what returns you could get. We got a graphic up right here, courtesy of Adam Peddle. Just asking, what Blue Jays gonna get traded here? You got your 1-year rentals, you got your 2-year rentals, and then you got your 3+ year guy. I mean, not even rentals at that point. They're guys. You're buying in on those guys if you went after a Kevin Gausman or a Jose Barrios. And I think we can all say right now, those two guys, in my opinion anyways, I would be floored if either one of them
that would be, that's what it's going to be, right? When we're talking about retools, a rebuild, or just a soft sell, you're looking at the spectrum right here. Everyone on that 1-year rental side is a soft sell, the obvious decision. The ones you kind of have to trade at this deadline. 2 years, now you're looking at retooling. This is a retool kind of era, slightly into rebuild if you're touching that Vlad and Bo era. And then, of course, Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios. And obviously here, there's some guys missing. I mean, I did include George Springer on this list. I didn't include Nate Pearson or Genesis Cabrera, because those guys either or were here for a long, long time after 3 years and won't really command much value at this trade deadline. So I kind of left them off. So I left the kind of guys obvious. And as we go forward for the next 3 weeks leading up to the deadline, we're going to be using this graphic to kind of navigate this trade deadline, updating it as we go, changing it to see who's hot on the block and who's not. But let's start right here. Let's go with Yusei Kikuchi, who's in that first 1-year rental column. What are your thoughts kind of about Yusei Kikuchi right now in terms of getting traded?
I think that Yusei Kikuchi will assuredly get traded. Like, if I could bet on anyone to go, I do think it's going to be him. The one thing that I worry about and something that we've been starting to discuss is the fact that he actually hasn't been that good recently, right? In the last month and a half, his value has been dipping significantly. When if you could just take those April numbers and, show that to a squad.
Yep.
Well, you're getting a top-tier prospect in return at minimum here. But Yusei Kikuchi now you're looking at a 4th starter, a 5th starter on a really good team. And those are going to be the squads that are going to be looking at Yusei Kikuchi. I was also, this morning, actually taking a look at some of the other potential guys that are out there. There are a lot of one-year starters that are better. That are ultimately better, right? You look over at the Texas Rangers. If they're going to sell, you got Scherzer and Michael Lorenzen and multiple other guys who are, let's face it, arguably better than Yusei Kikuchi is. You got Jack Flaherty over there on the Detroit Tigers, who is better than Yusei Kikuchi is doing right now. So even though I think that Yusei Kikuchi is definitely going to get moved, I think we need to start tempering expectations as what the return is going to be, because if you are a competitive squad like the Dodgers or the Yankees, it's not your first call, it's not your second call, it's your third call now, and at that point it's probably your C option in terms of everybody that you want to trade for. So your thoughts?
I completely echo all those thoughts. To give you another kind of point on this, looking at the return of Yusei Kikuchi, yes, he is going to get traded, but what are we going to get actually in return? Well, just to jump off you, probably not much, guys. At this rate, unless he goes on some sort of hot tear, like he throws an 8-inning shutout performances back to back to back, and that ERA that is currently at 4.12 right now looks a lot better. I'm thinking we're going to get that middling prospect, maybe a couple years away on a team that's like, hey, who's left? What's left on the market? Oh, we got a Yusei Kikuchi. I know the Blue Jays are kind of desperate right now. There's a couple days left of the deadline. You want this guy? No one else is knocking. That's what it's looking like for Yusei Kikuchi at this current standpoint, which is unfortunate, right? Because that, at the time, about a month and a half ago, was our biggest trade point, trade piece. And you're going to see a common theme here, guys. There's not too many big trade pieces in our one-year guys this year.
That is the problem, right? And I think that's why you got to start looking at those 2-year guys if you are Ross Atkins and have to decide, right? Are you willing to trade away some of the 2-year guys to get some more value now, or do you just want to get some smaller returns? Because you're right, Yusei Kikuchi is going to net you a smaller return. Similarly, Danny Jansen, incredible when he came back and was really, really good for a period of time, and now has completely fallen off the table, everybody. In the last,
30 days.
30 days. In the last 30 days, folks, Danny Jansen is batting below 100. He's got an OPS of 345. All of that slug that you get from Danny Jansen, right? Like, known to be one of the top slugging guys. When you look at the last several years of baseball, he's right up there with Bryce Harper and Mike Trout and Aaron Judge.
Right.
Just in ridiculous stats. That's been gone over the last month completely.
And you can see the slash line total now. It's looking not attractive. 218 batting average and an OPS of 686. And another problem that we brought up on this live stream yesterday is, well, how many competitive baseball teams are realistically going to be trading for a catcher at the trade deadline?
Barring a big injury.
Yeah, barring a big injury. Like, we have to throw out a dart right now. We need a Danny Jansen because the catching position, you have to learn your entire pitching staff. And you can't do that mid-season in a playoff run if you have serious aspirations at a World Series. You just can't do that. So the only other value that Danny Jansen was kind of providing is, well, maybe he could be a DH for a team or a backup catcher and like slowly get integrated into that pitching staff and learning their schemes, learning who pitches and learning who throws what. But the problem is he can't even hit now at this point. So same thing with Yusei Kikuchi. Unless Danny Jansen turns it on, I actually don't think he's going to get a lot of attraction at this deadline for those exact reasons.
I think actually, I don't think he does get traded at this point.
I agree.
And the reason is, like, maybe I'd put him in the, if you have a couple here, I'd put him in the possible trade.
Because, I agree.
Anything is possible at this point. But when Danny Jansen was doing incredibly, that to me was, okay, now you need to trade him because you're looking at a good return, right? You're looking at somebody who could actually net you a return. And if that's the case on the 1 year that he is right now, fine, do it, make it happen. But right now, the return that you're going to get for Danny Jansen, I actually don't think that it would be worth the risk of losing him in free agency because on this team right now, as a lot of you know, is Alejandro Kirk. And trading away Danny Jansen now means that not only for the remainder of this season, you're going to be rocking with Alejandro Kirk and Brian Serven. Those are going to be your guys, right? Which is something that, let's face it, we probably don't want to watch. But it also means that you're running the risk that next year there is no Danny Jansen.
Yeah.
There is nobody else coming in, right? Like, because now he's going to be at free agency. Maybe you trade him away to, I'm just making this up right now. Maybe he goes to the fucking, I don't know, throw out a team right now. Philadelphia Phillies. He wouldn't go there because obviously they got Chichiro into it. But he goes to a good team that, is winning ball games. And they're like, hey, we kind of like you, Danny Jansen.
Yeah,
like, here's an offer for you. Oh, fuck, man. If I'm Danny Jansen, I would much rather be on this, hyper-competitive team than head back over to Toronto, the team that just traded me, and play over there.
Yeah.
So you're running the risk of losing Danny Jansen to free agency if you trade him. And if you're not actually getting a good enough return, I don't think it's worth the risk.
That's exactly right. The return would not be good enough to risk losing your guy for a long, long time, because you also got to think, too, this is why I brought up the question, like, what is the Blue Jays trying to accomplish? If we're going into a big rebuild, screw it.
Yeah.
Trade Danny Jansen.
Yeah.
If you're going into a big rebuild in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, you're going to be in the tank, then there's no need for a Danny Jansen to be catching during that time. Let Alejandro Kirk play. Draft some catchers, maybe sign a free agent catcher to fill in the gap. But right now, if the Blue Jays, like we talked about, are going into that, we got to compete next year, then they might want to sign a Danny Jansen. Or if they want to extend Vladimir Guerrero Jr., trying to do a quick retool, then yes, you want to save Danny Jansen. So it's not worth the risk. I'm more leaning on, I think they should hold him, but you never know. It's a possible trade.
It will be a possible trade. When he was doing really good, things were different. Now that he's kind of fallen off, I mean, we all know the value of Danny Jansen, even if other teams don't. So just hold.
Hold.
Justin Turner, on the other hand, that to me is maybe number 2 on the list of guys that will get traded assuredly after Yusei Kikuchi. There really is no reason to hold on to Justin Turner, right? Like, he's on the 1-year deal. We are talking about, a full-on veteran who could be out of the league after this year, honestly. Like, the guy just had a kid. He's made his money. He's won his World Series. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's been to the All-Star game before. Justin Turner has had himself his career and, going to be 40 after this season. It's like, all right, probably going to hang it up. If I was Justin Turner, I would want to have one last kick at the can here to potentially go win a ring. One more. And I think from the Toronto Blue Jays standpoint, you were looking at one of your, which is terrible to say,
better hitters,
more valuable hitters here. Even though he's batting .245 with an OPS of 720, one of your more valuable hitters here, one of your more valuable assets to trade away.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like the numbers on the year don't look good. But if you do look at the last 30 days of Justin Turner, he's batting even better than when he began the year. He's 288 average and an OPS of 862. So if you can ride this out a little bit more, raise that overall slash time, I think that could be a little bit more attractive to teams. However, on the flip side of things, Justin Turner doesn't provide much value to a team other than I'm a bat.
Yeah.
And I will have to lock up your DH spot. Maybe I come off the bench. Maybe I'm a bit of a luxury piece for a team wanting to go deep. Hell, maybe the Dodgers go trade for him again, right?
I'll tell you right here. Shout out to Lisa W., Lisa's husband, Andy here. Who the hell is going to trade for Justin Turner, though? And it is a good question, right? Because you are looking at a guy who is not at all going to be the cream of the crop here when it comes to designated hitters or hitters in general at the trade deadline. But there will be squads out there that's just looking for an additional piece that, they know that they can trust, that will give you some at-bats. How about the Seattle Mariners, right? Like, they have hardly any hitting over there. So it's like they take anything that they could get. Or alternatively, as LA for life is saying, the Dodgers, they know how valuable Justin Turner is over there in LA, right? They're talking about a guy who's great for them for years. So, again, we're not going to get the return that you hope for here. Right. It is not going to be a top prospect. Fuck, it might not even be any prospect, right? Like, it could just be like some no-name guy that you have never heard of in the minor leagues that might come up if somebody gets injured, right? Like, it could be something like that, but somebody will be willing to pay that price for Justin Turner.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, hey, you might as well trade him, get anything for him. I was having aspirations and dreams that he would love it here in Toronto, and he does. He loves it here in Canada. He's all representing Canada, especially on Canada Day. He wants his kids to get a Canadian citizenship, which they're going to get. But it's like, dang, like, now I wanted you to become a coach. I wanted you to become, like, a leader. But we're going to trade him away, so that probably will not happen.
Sophie's even suggesting here Justin Turner to the Red Sox. And I know that, interdivisional trading doesn't happen a ton, but Justin Turner's a one-year guy. He's a veteran as all holy hell. I think that would be something that you could see because, again, Boston knows the value of it.
It's not like we're getting a top prospect anyway, so like whatever.
Exactly,
you know? I mean, we traded Steve Pearce back in I believe it was 2017 to the Red Sox. And that was a guy who's hot, you can plug in, and he ended up winning MVP in the World Series. Yeah. So great, make that happen.
100%. Moving on to Jimmy Garcia right now. These are all the one-year guys. Honestly, Jimmy, for me, I'm going to put him in kind of the possible trade category. Okay. I do agree that he is a must trade, but the reason that I say possible trade is because of the injury that just transpired, because when he, right before he got injured, he was struggling a little bit. He was giving up some earned runs. I think a Jimmy Garcia trade really depends on how does he come out of the gate in the next couple weeks, right? Like, he's got to get a couple innings for sure. And if he's giving up earned runs in those innings, nobody's on the phone. If he's looking like he did at the beginning of the season, everyone's on the phone.
We're on the phone.
So it's tough to say.
So then what would be the reason to not trade him? Even though he is struggling, maybe nobody's on the phone. Like, you think the reason why we don't trade him is just because literally nobody will be interested?
Yeah, I think that would be it, right? Like, I think it's because, again, if you are a contending squad that's looking for bullpen arms, we are looking for reliability. Right. Like, we need someone reliable.
I could argue, though, that maybe Jimmy Garcia, because, I mean, the pitching market out there is so competitive, and everybody needs bullpen. Like, everybody in the world needs bullpen. So if I'm the Toronto Blue Jays and I'm going, hey, like, this was our best reliever all year. Yes, he got an injury, but I'm willing to only get, like, a little piece of value. I'm willing to sell low because we got to trade him right now. You might as well just take it if I'm a team. Like, hey, fill out the bullpen. Why not, right? Think about it. Who did we trade for in 2021? Oh, my God, and we cut him. He was awful. He was awful from the Nationals.
Oh, Brad Hand.
Terrible. And he was awful.
That was terrible.
You know what I mean? And Jimmy's better than that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, people will trade for ass pitchers just for a hope. I
do hear what you're saying there. I hear where you're coming from. I guess, again, if the price is low enough, anyone will be available. Yeah. And then, if you really gave up nothing to acquire him, you are okay with cutting him if he's not good. I do think, for the Jays standpoint, you got to bring him up relatively soon. Yeah. And when you bring him up, you have got to pray to God that you get some good outings.
That's all we're looking for, man.
That is literally all we're looking for. Because if he can give you three good outings of scoreless ball, looking dominant in some medium to high leverage situations, excellent. You are gone. You get to now, honestly, for Jimmy, it's a great standpoint too, because congratulations, you get to now play on the Yankees or the Dodgers or somebody that will be in the playoffs. You now have that right. So, I do think he will get traded if he can come out looking good.
And the only other thing is, like, well, in the possible trade, the only reason why they didn't want to keep him is if there's any reality we can sign him back. Like, the bullpen is ass. I mean, like, I haven't even thought about that idea, but the bullpen is so bad that are you willing to extend a Jimmy Garcia? I feel like I lean to no.
I think you need a complete overhaul of that staff. I think you really need a complete overhaul of that staff. So
maybe we can lean at what do you think? Possible trade or must trade?
It's kind of both. It's honestly both at this point. Right. I feel like you should trade him, but it's more about, like, will anyone even be interested in it?
I'll throw both in there. Why not? Why not?
I think assuredly, though, Trevor Richards, when you're talking about the bullpen arms, when you're talking about one-year guys, this actually could be our most valuable piece.
Yes,
like, seriously,
it is.
Right?
No one's talking about it.
That's what I was saying. Right? I've been talking about Trevor Richards now for about over a month.
Yeah.
And only very recently have I heard a couple other analysts start to throw his name around. And I just don't understand it, man, because you're talking about a guy who has pitched 47 innings out of the bullpen.
Reliable.
47 innings out of the bullpen. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the most out of our bullpen, out of everybody so far.
Out of everybody.
He's got an ERA just over 3. Very good.
Whip under 0.9.
Whip under 0.9
average
is
against
insanity.
Average against of 152.
And that's not even talking about the fact that you're looking at a Swiss Army knife, right? Yeah. Like, we've seen Trevor Richards start games. We've seen Trevor Richards close games. We've seen Trevor Richards come in the second, in the fourth, and it doesn't fucking matter, right? This guy he is a pitcher's pitcher. He gets the ball and he goes, okay, man, I'm going to throw my changeup. You won't be able to hit it. I don't care what point in the game or what situation, I can handle it. Trevor Richards, to me, is one of your biggest trade pieces if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, and that is somebody that needs to go.
I agree. Now, is there any possibility, again, thinking about the bullpen, would they ever consider extending this guy? I'm just thinking about this right now, trying to play devil's advocate. I mean, let's see where he's at.
I don't know.
He's 31 years old. I feel like this is going to be the most value you're going to get. This is actually a guy where I could see them trading away, like, your 10th or 9th prospect.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about we traded for crappy Brad Hand. Maybe it was an overpay. We traded away Riley Adams, and he was
right,
up there.
15th or 16th.
Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah.
And he was a piece of crap,
sure,
right?
You know, it's like, exactly. Like, you could get something here. You could get something. And for that reason alone, I think that is why you absolutely must trade him.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at the other guys on this list, right, you're looking at Yusei Kikuchi, who at this point, I mean, yeah, you'll get something, but it's not going to be great. And Danny Jansen, you'll get something, but it's not going to be great. Justin Turner, maybe something. Trevor Richards is the only one-year guy that you could actually get something and could actually feel good about it. So I agree with you. It's like, okay, it'd be nice if you could extend him, but like we got bigger fish to fry right now.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on to the last one-year rental guy. And this guy, we're talking about who's got the most return. This guy absolutely has the least return. I actually find it hard that a trade would even happen for him unless it is one of those, okay, I'm really pushing for a World Series run. I'm the LA Dodgers. I'm the Yankees. You know, I'm really pushing for this run. I have one spot on my bench, and I have it just empty right now. I need a defensive replacement who could also maybe run a bit in late games. Kevin Kiermaier. That's we got money to spare. Kevin Kiermaier. I know I'm gonna have to, like, as a Blue Jays, eat some of his contract, but to get any value. But that's the only reality he gets traded. No one's looking for Kevin Kiermaier. It's at the end of the deadline. We made all the moves. Let's go add one more piece.
Yeah,
that's what Kevin Kiermaier is.
Like,
at this point.
I think that the Toronto Blue Jays, you know, you might offer him up a couple times. Actually, I'm sure you offer him up a lot.
A lot.
It's one of those guys where there is so many better options for any other team, whether it be on the trade market or hell, even in your minor league system. Like, that's why I find it so difficult to believe that Kevin Kiermaier does go, or like the only way that he would leave this team is a DFA, because ultimately, like, if I'm any other squad, I'd rather have my fucking 14th ranked outfield prospect than Kevin Kiermaier. Like, the only thing you're trading for is defense. And I guess if you have, like, no one that plays good defense, like, maybe, but
if you're a team like, for example, the Philadelphia Phillies, who you need some good defense in the outfield, and you have a bunch of sluggers, you'll never start Kevin Kiermaier.
Right.
But when it comes to postseason playoff runs, I need a pinch runner in the 8th inning, and then I'm going to put him in the outfield to lock it down. That makes a lot more sense in the postseason. Like, that kind of team would trade for a Kevin Kiermaier, and it wouldn't cost you really anything at all.
And I also agree with Rigo here, who's saying nobody wants Kiermaier. Even in free agency, nobody wanted him. And that's another thing, too, right? We got to factor in free agency, because I'm pretty sure he came out afterwards and was like, yeah, like, no one was calling me. Like,
I hear you.
It was the Blue Jays. And that was before he was this bad.
Right.
That was before he was this bad. I'll kind of, compromise with you in a bit and say, like, there's a possibility that maybe somebody somewhere might roster him.
Yeah.
But I don't even know what you give up for him at this
Here's
point.
the thing. Again, like, it's a guy who literally would never see a postseason at bat.
Yeah.
You are desperate if you have him playing in the postseason.
So many people are injured.
But he, I looked at the other day, he's top 6 and outs above average for outfielders. So again, he's a lockdown. He's a great postseason guy. And that's things that is beyond the batting average, beyond the terrible swings and misses. He's got a great glove, and he's fast.
Right.
That's it. That's all you're trading for. So possible trade if there is a guy. That's literally possible just because if there's anybody interested.
Yeah.
Right?
Before we hop over to the 2-year guys, I do want to quickly kind of jump over to the 3-year guys, actually.
Okay.
And kind of deal with them first, because, I mean, when I look at those guys, for me, it is pretty clear. Like, I would be shocked if they're going to go anywhere. I really would. We're talking about Kevin Gausman. We're talking about Jose Barrios. I also see several people in the chat commenting about George Springer as well. I don't see George Springer going anywhere at all, guys. I know that he's hot right now, but you're also still looking at a massive contract if you are another team. And just because
you're seeing the regression, man.
Yeah,
you can't be trading for that.
Just because George Springer has been good in the past little bit, like, I don't think anyone would do that. If you're the Jays, if somebody actually did ask about it, I think you're over the moon, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you are probably seeing the writing on the wall too. So George Springer, I don't see him going anywhere at all. I think that's one of those ones where you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you set it, you forget it, and you hope for the best. Similarly speaking, Kevin Gausman, if you were to trade Kevin Gausman away right now, like you're trading him at his absolute low.
Mhm.
He has not looked good this year. You would be giving away some money, but I think that would be a disservice to him
Right.
and his career up to this point.
Yeah,
And
that'd be a shocker.
It would be a shocker.
That'd be, I think, the most shocking trade. Maybe a Vlad Bow trade, but that would be the most shocking.
Yeah,
Sure.
and also too, I mean, when you're looking at Jose Barrios, Jose Barrios undeniably have a lot of value, but that is full on rebuild.
That's what it is.
Ross is fired, John is fired, Mark is fired, everyone is gone. We are entering hell mode. It's going to be dark times for years.
That's a trade that happens not this deadline, but if we get a new GM and we're have a new philosophy, we're going into the tank now, then you might consider those possible trades. But right now, even like we said off the top, we're going into maybe trying to compete again in the next couple of years. These guys are still going to be there, and for that reason, you hold them.
It's a hold.
I don't think you trade these guys at all this deadline. Even though, like you hold Kevin Gausman, like you said, the value's low. Barrios' value, on the other end, really high.
Yeah.
Very great. Oh my God, he'd get you a top prospect. Absolutely. But it's just not worth it if you're looking to compete soon.
Exactly.
He's too
Right. It all that's when it depends on the mentality, right? And that's why I wanted to jump over to those 3-year guys, because I feel like that's easy. The tough part is for this Toronto Blue Jays trade deadline, this is where it gets difficult, and this is where there's been a decent amount of debate. Everybody can agree that the 1 year should go, and most people, I think, can agree that the 3 years plus, everybody that's locked into this team for long term should probably stay. It's the 2-year guys. It is your Guerrero, your Bo, your Bassitt, your Yusei Kikuchi.
Yeah.
It's what do you do there? Because there is clearly value there. You could get a good return for some of those guys, assuredly, but you'd also be killing potential for next year.
Yeah, that's it.
If you want to compete. So the one player that I think we can all agree should stay put, and I do think they will stay put unless you're looking at a Juan Soto level offer, which I don't think would happen, would be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Ultimately, he's just playing a little too good right now to move him. You would get a killer return, but you're looking at the future of this team. You're looking at the face of this team.
Exactly. And you want to talk about, players that are going to be here beyond this rebuild. It would be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. if you decide to extend him.
Which you should.
And just from a fan perspective, I want to watch my team play baseball, trading Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would be a death sentence to your fan base.
Right.
You are literally saying, hey, the one exciting player that you actually like on this team, we're going to get rid of him.
I'm just looking around right now and looking at all of the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. merchandise that we have.
Yep.
We got something here that's Vlad. We got a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. jersey.
It's behind
we
there.
got Vladdy
cards.
baseball cards here. Like you're talking about, a player that Blue Jays fans have heavily invested in for years now.
Right.
And I think that at this point, the fan base would just be so livid if you got rid of him again, unless it's literally for fucking Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
That would never happen.
It would never happen.
Vlad's gonna stay put. Bo is very contentious though.
Yeah.
And this is where I think the fan base gets extremely split, because on one hand, it's Bo, and then on the other hand, Bo's not going to be playing very good.
Yeah,
recently.
I mean, look, baseball's funny like that, right? His entire career leading up to this season, you'd say, hell no, never trade Bo Bichette. And then you look at other people's careers. If you look at the Baseball Reference, even All-Stars, Hall of Famers will have a blip year like this for Bo Bichette. And it's one half of the season. And Bo Bichette has been playing like this, not as bad, but pretty bad in first halves before, and then turns it on in the second half. But again, it comes down to that exact question. What are you trying to do for 2025? In my opinion, I think if you want a strong retool to bring in new faces, look at the one-year rentals. We're not going to get that. We're not getting a strong retool to bring in new faces. Bo Bichette, either at this deadline or in the offseason, is a great piece where you can get a top 5 prospect in somebody's system. Even after this season, you can get that top 5 prospect because he is Bo Bichette and plays a commanding position of shortstop. However, is it possible that the Blue Jays get into those conversations at this deadline? I think there'll be rumors. I don't know if they're actually going to be considering it.
Yeah, well, I know that there was actually some news that came out kind of recently about Carlos Correa potentially being injured for a period of time. I mean, look, you'd never want to hope for injuries for anybody here, but the Toronto Blue Jays, like you're kind of hoping that other teams lose their shortstop, lose their middle infielders, because that is when I think exactly that's when they get desperate. The thing that I keep coming back to with the Bo Bichette trade is because he's doing so poorly and because the mentality has been kind of bad. I don't know what type of return you'd be looking for here. This article, discussing the whole Carlos Correa stuff and everything like that. What do they have here?
Number 2 prospect.
Is a safe trade, and number 2 prospects Brooks Lee. They're not even giving that up here.
No, they're not.
It would be their 3rd ranked prospect, Emmanuel Rodriguez. I mean, that's still something. That's kind of good. Honestly more than I would anticipate for Bo right now. If you could get a deal like that, if you're looking at a top guy, right, a top 5 guy like you're suggesting, I flirt and I entertain and I get on the phone and I really start thinking about it if I'm Ross Atkins.
Yeah.
If they're going to be buying low and they're going to be giving you some bullshit offers, which, let's face it, some teams are going to do this trade deadline, I think you have to say no. So Bo Bichette, for me, I think he is available, and I think that just based on the way that he's playing and also to kind of the mentality that you're getting from Bo this year, it feels like he's ready to move on from the Jays. This is speculatory. We could be completely talking over ass here. In fact, we probably are. But it does, I get that sense just watching him. So if you get a good enough return, do it. But if not, hold him. I'm saying possible trade here.
I'm going to agree. I think I'm going to go on the lowest end of possible trade, where it's not like you're actively shopping him. I think you're going to be listening to offers more than not, honestly. And the thing is, look at what Bo's been doing. He's got a negative WAR this season.
That's the problem.
How could I be a team going, oh, yeah, give me this negative WAR guy? But teams remember this. Teams remember this Bo Bichette, his entire career. Batting champ leader, leader in hits back-to-back years. That's the Bo Bichette I'd hope to get in 2025. So if I'm Ross Atkins, I listen, and I'm probably going to get maybe your 3rd-ranked prospect, but that might not be sweet enough for me. So unless somebody goes crazy and offers up, like the Twins, we need a shortstop now. But also then what happens next year when Bo Bichette is with the team? Maybe second base? Who knows? Possible trade, but low possible trade, just because right now I really don't see it happening. But there could be offers.
Yeah, no, there's certainly, there will be people calling about him for sure. It's a really tough one to navigate, and it's a difficult position that the Jays have found themselves in. Following that, another guy that's kind of contentious here is Chris Bassitt on the Jays. And out of the 2 years, 2-year guys, this one to me is the player that I am most intrigued by if the Toronto Blue Jays decide to go in this direction, because I think that you're looking at a guy in Chris Bassitt that could get you a decent return. You are looking at a top 10 prospect, maybe not a top 5 guy, but a top 10, I think.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
I think a top 10
Another
guy
year,
for sure.
Great.
Exactly, right, because you have that additional year of control. You're looking at a player here from a contending ball club standpoint that is a veteran, that has been there before, that has done it year after year after year, and is continuing to do it right now. A guy that you can trust, a guy that isn't going to come in and be your ace, but would assuredly be your 2nd or 3rd or 4th pitcher in your rotation. So you'd be very happy about that. So I think that there will be a market for him. And from the Jays standpoint, I don't think it kills you to lose Chris Bassitt for next year.
No, I mean, look at the rotation we'd still have. If you're holding on to Gosman, holding on to Barrios, right? You have those 2 guys. Yariel, we know he's been showing some great signs.
Good.
He could come in. Alek Manoah, if he comes back from injury. Ricky Tiedemann, potentially. And hell, there's guys all in this offseason you could try to sign for a Band-Aid that we're going to have money for, right? So it won't hurt your rotation. And again, you have to ask yourself, what are we going to try to accomplish for 2025? If part of the plan is, this rotation, we got to get some sort of return. We maybe trade Bassitt, and then we'll go sign some guys, and we'll kind of Band-Aid that up. But then we'll focus on pumping the offense, right? Right. We're going to trade for some offensive pieces, pump into the offense again. Well, if that's your strategy, then trade Chris Bassitt.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about a comparable trade that the Blue Jays made in 2021 for Jose Barrios. Granted, much younger. You had the possibility of extending him, right? So that was always on the table. But we traded 2 of our top 5 prospects. Austin Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson. We traded 2 of those prospects. Now, Chris Bassitt may not command that because he's got similar length on his contract. He's been just as consistent, if not better, than Jose Barrios at the time we traded for him. So if I'm a playoff team, maybe we could get a top 5 prospect potentially if the market's hot for a Chris Bassitt, and that's something you could possibly consider.
That's what you're asking for, right? That's what you want if you are if you're Ross Atkins. And I looked at squads specifically for me. I look over at the LA Dodgers. They have reportedly been looking at starting pitching. That is what they want to address this trade deadline. And they're a squad where they know their window will be for years to come. Money is no obstacle for them because Chris Bassitt is going to command some money next year. So money is no obstacle for them at all. And they know that they're going to be good, and they need to buy in right now. So that, to me, feels like an ideal landing spot for Chris Bassitt. Their prospect system is pretty good as well. So if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, great, have at her. If you can get a top 5 guy from the LA Dodgers, I will happily accept that for Chris Bassitt. And I feel like this, out of the 2-year rentals, potentially is the most likely. However, we do have a couple more guys to get to. So, toss them into a possible trade right there. You guys, I know that one's contentious. Comment your thoughts down below. Where could Chris Bassitt go? Do you think it's the right move? Is there a way for the Toronto Blue Jays to still be competitive in 2025 without Chris Bassitt, with a return from him instead?
Now, the next one on this list is Isaiah Conorfella. Now, this one's interesting. The only reason why he's on this list is because we kind of brought it up last live stream, watching the game, why aren't we actually talking about Isaiah Conorfella? Great contract.
Yeah.
Any team would love that. He's playing out of his ass right now. He's playing the best baseball he's ever played in his entire career. And if we're not going to compete in 2025, maybe you consider trading Isaiah Conorfella. But then there's the other side of things. Well, Ross Atkins just signed this guy.
Right.
And they're going to trade him away, right, when they're trying to compete in this next window. And Ross Atkins, like he said, wants to compete for 2025. Why would I trade one of my best assets? That's the other side of things. Where are you kind of on this whole Isaiah Conorfella? Very, very early and new conversation, by the way. This hasn't really been in the media, but it's a possibility.
I think it's probably unlikely that he goes. However, this to me is just a simple buy low, sell high, right? It's just now, no one anticipated Isaiah Conorfella to be this good at baseball, but you were looking at an incredibly strong, defensively first, Swiss Army knife type of player that you can plug in anywhere. So any team would want that. And the fact that he's actually swinging it too, the guy's got a 290 batting average.
Yeah.
This is not a scrub, right? This is somebody who you could plug in, honestly, almost anywhere in your lineup and feel really good about it for a contending ball team. So, the fact that he is doing so well, now he's entered this conversation, because I think even Ross Atkins might be surprised to me, wow, I bought this guy super low, and now I can sell him high. So that alone, I think, is why you need to at least entertain these conversations, but probably on the lower end of the possible spectrum.
Yeah, I want to say it's always possible. It's never impossible. Again, because you got to factor in what are they going to try to do for next year. If they want to give their middle infield prospects from AAA Buffalo that are now in the big league level some more playing time, well, then trading Isaiah Conorfella would be absolutely a possibility.
Yeah, because look at Addison Barger.
Yeah.
Right? Barger has been up and down now twice from AAA to the MLB, and obviously I know he hasn't been incredible when he's been up here, but he has not really had consistent playing time in this time at all. So if you're looking from a Toronto Blue Jays standpoint to really give these guys an opportunity, then Isaiah Conorfella, he's holding one of those spots. He has been really good at baseball, and he will help you win ball games. But if that's not something that you are actively trying to do here in or this season, then maybe move on from him. I would also argue that Isaiah Conorfella, no one fucking wanted him in free agency this year, right? You could theoretically pick up another IKF guy in free agency. I don't know if he's going to hit the same way that IKF has, right? You got kind of lucky there. But this Toronto Blue Jays team and their management, credit to Ross Atkins, they have been pretty good at finding some middle infield guys on 1-year or 2-year deals that end up being good at baseball. I will cite Marcus Semien as being one of those players, right? Nobody expected him to do what he did, and then he was an MVP candidate.
Get players from other organizations, guys. That's the key here. Don't get any players developed from Toronto. Get them from other organizations.
Buy them from other squads and sign them to 1 or 2-year deals.
And now I am seeing in the chat everybody kind of going off right now saying, don't trade IKF. No, IKF is a keeper. And I hear that. Do you think that maybe the fact that the fan base is growing on IKF has any influence of them of him holding on to IKF?
I think so, right? I think that they're looking to still sell tickets and they want people in the seats. But I would ask the people that are listening to us right now, who would you prefer? Would you prefer to hold on to Chris Bassitt or hold on to Yusei Kikuchi? I don't know. I actually genuinely don't know.
And again, are we trying to win next year? Because if we're trying to win next year, you keep IKF, absolutely. There's no question about it. But if we're not trying to win and we're doing a major retool, right? That's the two sides of this the path we can go down. Then you trade him. This is the highest value. You could get a great prospect, not a great prospect, but a top prospect in someone's system.
Somebody for sure. You could get someone for sure. So you guys let us know in the comments there. What do you think about Yusei Kikuchi? Finally, let's talk about Chad Green.
Before we move on, like what are we going to claim him as? Possible trade, hold?
I think he's a possible trade.
It's possible, but it's low for me. It's low for me.
It's definitely on the lower end of things. We haven't heard too much about it yet, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if moving forward we hear more about it. Actually, this is a good question for the chat and
maybe we'll do both.
You.
Actually, yeah.
But if you're a squad right now that's looking to contend, who would you rather have, Bassitt or Yusei Kikuchi? Yusei Kikuchi isn't going to cost as much. Is playing better, has better defense, better hitting, and is on the exact same contract as Bassitt. So, I mean, if I'm calling up the Toronto Blue Jays for a middle infielder right now, why the fuck do I want Bassitt when you got this almost all-star guy, getting paid $7.5 million a year?
Yeah.
I'm calling about that guy.
Yeah, no, I agree. And everyone in the chat's saying hold. So the only reason why I'm throwing hold there is because people like him.
Right. So maybe I have to reframe the question then. If you are, Blue Jays fans out here, who would you rather hold on to? Not IKF over Chris Bassitt. Now it's IKF over Bassitt. Because they're almost,
I'd rather hold on to IKF. I'd rather hold on to IKF. Straight up.
That's insane.
Straight up.
Crazy, man. Okay, this is where we're fucking at, guys. Moving on, Chad Green, the locked-in closer right now for the Toronto Blue Jays. One of the few reliable bullpen pieces that we do have right now. He's on a 2-year deal. He's playing really good baseball. This is one of those players that I think a team would certainly be interested in. He's got some good playoff experience. He's been around the block. I'm not sure, though. I'm just not sure about Green.
That's the thing. Like, when we were talking about Jimmy Garcia and Trevor Richards, we're saying, we're going to trade him or not. Yeah, it's a must trade. But if you trade Chad Green, like, effectively, the only guys you have in your bullpen now is maybe Jordan Romano if he comes back healthy, and then whoever Eric Swanson's going to be next year. That's your bullpen.
Like your bullpen would be decimated.
It would be decimated,
which it
right?
already is.
But again, if you're going into a retool, you would want to trade away a Chad Green because if you keep him, well, then you're still going to be bad next year anyways. I mean, the bullpen's horrible with Chad Green, leading the pack right now. So what do you do? So I wouldn't say it's impossible. I'm still going to say it's a possible trade, in my opinion, because it's a guy who could provide so much trade value.
Right.
Like, a lot. He's one of the top guys, I would say, on this list that can provide trade value because he's got him for another year.
Yeah. No, I certainly hear that. I find it, I don't know why I'm hesitant about or Green getting moved. Maybe it is just because, I do agree that we got to strip down the bullpen, but, I mean, you would then be looking at, in the offseason, you might have to sign, 7 or 8 bullpen arms. You have to go insane.
You have to look at our system, and now we're calling up the minor leaguers. We are now having minor league players pitching out of our bullpen. That's what it's going to have to be. That would be
what it would look like for a while.
And then at that point, if I'm the Toronto, that's the thing. If I'm a Toronto Blue Jays and I want to compete next year, well, I'm definitely not. I'm not trading Chad Green.
Right.
That would ruin my chances to be anywhere near competitive next year. So it depends on what they do. I think they hold on to him, but it's possible.
We'll say a possible trade for Green. I think it's kind of in the IKF thing for me. I think it's unlikely, but again, all of this depends on the return that you're getting, right? If people are on the phone and they're offering you up some big time players, you have to listen. You just have to listen, folks. Before we move on to our next segment, do you want to give a quick shout out to the Jay of the Week?
Oh, yeah, that's right, guys. So, I mean, usually at the Blue Jays Today show here, we would do a whole segment. We're going to do it. But this past week, baseball, let's talk about it. We won a series. Congrats. We got destroyed in Houston. That sucked.
That was bound to happen, man. We ran into Houston when they were, really damn good at baseball.
They were damn good at baseball, but there was one guy, actually a couple guys, we'll give a couple shout-outs, but one guy on the pitching staff that showed the hell up when we needed it. Granted, we didn't have a winning week, but we needed this, and also, it's a bright spot of our future. Let's give a big shout-out to the Jay of the Week, everybody. All right.
Day of the week, guys. I see Sophie calling for George, and George was really close.
He was close.
He was really close, and he deserves a big shout out. And George Springer has fought back from the criticism and is playing some good ball. So hats off to Springer. However, I mean, look, I've been excited about this guy for a minute, folks. Yariel Rodriguez was damn good.
He was
damn
good.
He was damn good at baseball, guys. I mean, the guy 2 outings, 12 innings pitched, I believe, 1 earned run, if that's correct.
Yeah.
I mean, Yariel Rodriguez did work.
Yeah, if anybody's going to get the J of the week, it's you give up 3 hits, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts. Like that's phenomenal. You should have won your first outing against Houston on Canada Day, but the Blue Jays were the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And then you literally dominated against the Seattle Mariners. This is the future. George Springer, again, I'll give it a big shout out. Very close.
Yes.
304 batting average. OPS of 1.016 with 2 homers. Huge home run yesterday. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But Yariel, got to show the love for the pitching staff that has been struggling recently.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, we needed the bullpen day to get a lot better, and it finally did. And that is all thanks to Yariel Rodriguez, right? Throwback to the dark days when it was like the Bowden Francis and God only knows who after him, right? Like, those were tough times. So, thank you, Yariel. You are good. We appreciate you. Speaking of the bullpen, though, we got to harp on these guys just a little bit. I know that you tweeted it out today. Yeah. This is an insane Toronto Blue Jays stat, folks. This is one that you hate. It is a scary one, but it is the reality of the situation. The Toronto Blue Jays bullpen have been the worst that they have ever been in 20 years. The last time that this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen was this bad was in 2004, and that team went on to win 67 games and lose 94. This Blue Jays bullpen has been decimated this year, folks. This is an atrocity for the Toronto Blue Jays. This was one of our strengths. It is now one of our weaknesses. What in the fuck happened to the Toronto Blue Jays bullpen?
Bro, I wish I could tell. Well, actually, I could tell you what happened. It was Jordan Romano. We have no Jordan Romano. Gone. Closer's gone. That's going to be a big hit. Jimmy Garcia's been hurt for a little bit. You have literally no Eric Swanson at all. He's a shell of himself. We cut Meza because he was a shell of himself. Those are 4 guys that you are missing right now, that you don't have. That's half your bullpen that is supposed to be locking down games, that was locking down games in the previous year.
Yeah.
And then remember last year, we had Trevor Richards. He's still good, obviously. But remember you had Jay Jackson. That's one of those underrated pieces that come in and they dominate.
I was so upset that they never signed that guy back. I don't know what we were doing there.
No idea. Twins picked him up, and guess what? He's been good.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, why haven't we done that? So you lose guys like that are helping out this bullpen, and look what happens. So it's been one of the worst guys. And then Genesis Cabrera, he's been turning around as of late, but for most of the year has been bad. But it's been a concoction of just who? Yeah. You know, Brandon Iser, Wes Parsons, Paulo Espino, Jose Cos, Ryan Burke.
Oh, my God.
Like, look at all these guys. Mitch White.
Jose Quas.
Oh, God.
Jose Quas.
Awful.
Wow. I didn't think that you could ever be this bad. 3 pitches, hit batter. I forget what the other one was. It was a
2 RBI
single.
Yeah.
My goodness gracious. If that's not a metaphor for what the Toronto Blue Jays season has been, I don't even know what is, man. Like, we're calling up literal nobodies at this point, folks, from the minor league system, and they are just not competing at the MLB level. This is why, obviously, the Jays are going to sell, and we're all on this page right now, because even if the offense decided to everyone turn it around at once, and even if the starting pitching decided to, immediately become relatively good at baseball again, we would still be worse than the 2021 squad because our bullpen is worse than that.
Oh, God.
That team we did not make playoffs with, and we had the best offense in all of baseball. So it goes to show how actually bad we are right now and how terrible this bullpen is.
Yeah, dude, you know what's crazy? When I was going through all the years, I went year by year trying to find all the worst team in 2004. We were ranked 16th in bullpen ERA actually in 2021. So we were on mid bullpen, and we hated that bullpen.
Wow.
We're ranked 28th in baseball. Actually, excuse me, I think it's 29th in baseball this year.
Wow.
Awful. Colorado Rockies are right below us.
That's terrible, everybody. That is terrible. That is a big problem that the Toronto Blue Jays are going to need to address in this offseason at the trade deadline for next year.
Draft.
If you have any hope of being competitive in 2025, like, sure, go out and sign Juan Soto, get all these guys. It doesn't matter if there's nobody to hold a game.
No,
right? It really doesn't matter. You're going to need to find people to hold the game because right now, what has happened to this bullpen is just devastating.
It's awful. It's awful. But we're going to need them, apparently, for this upcoming series. We're playing a series against the San Francisco Giants this week, guys. No game today. Games Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a day game Thursday before they go on to face the Diamondbacks. And then it's the All-Star break. So this is the final stretch before we get a little bit of a pause, guys. And this week, we got Yusei Kikuchi on Tuesday in Game 1 going up against Blake Snell, who's actually just coming off the IL.
Right.
And this guy's been bad. I don't know what to expect from Blake Snell. We kind of need Yusei Kikuchi, like we mentioned earlier in this podcast, to be better.
I think I do know what we're going to expect from Blake Snell. I think it's going to be bad.
I think it's going to be bad.
I think it's going to be bad. Like, I think that Blake Snell, he didn't get the spring training that he needed. He started off slow. Then he got injured. He's been bad. It's just nothing's going right for Blake Snell. He got his money, and I'm sure he's happy about that. Yeah. But this season of baseball has been poor, to say the least. Yusei Kikuchi hasn't been great recently, but I think that the San Francisco Giants is a squad that you can handle. It's somebody that you can deal with.
Yep.
I like our chances in this game a lot. I
Me
actually
too.
like our chances in this series a decent amount, and that's saying something because you guys know I'm kind of down on this squad right now.
Oh, yeah.
The first game, I do think that we are going to win.
Yes, I agree. And Yusei Kikuchi's going to prove it. He's going to do it, and he's going to be happy. He's going to dominate against these Giants, and we're going to win Game 1, and we're going to dominate against Snell. Moving on to Game 2. We've got, as this one's loading right here, I believe it's going to be Chris Bassitt, yes, and Logan Webb. Bassitt's been phenomenal, but Webb has been very, very good this year. I feel like this is one of those classic ones where we see the Blue Jays going up against good pitching. It's going to be a tight game. What are we thinking here? I feel like my bias says we're going to lose just because you have great pitching and you never see this guy.
I don't think that's a bias at all. I think that's fact, man, right? Like when we deal with pitchers, it's actually just the case, guys. Yeah. When the Toronto Blue Jays handle pitchers with an ERA below 4, like we look like a shell of our former self, right? Like we need the pitchers to be bad. This is a very good pitcher. He is, handled better offenses than us, right? Think about it. He's got a 3.09 ERA and has played against the Dodgers several times and a bunch of those good teams in the NL. So I don't like our chances in this one at all, even though Chris Bassitt's been incredible. This is going to be a loss.
It's going to be a loss. Easy one right there. And then moving on to the afternoon game on Thursday, which, guys, we're going to be live for this week.
Yeah.
We're going to be having no Wednesday stream. We're actually going to be doing some more trade conversations on Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to be live for the play-by-play at 3:45.
All these games are obviously West Coast affairs, so they will be at 9:40 at night, Tuesday and Wednesday. The Thursday one, 3:45 midday, so mark it in the agenda. You got Jordan Hicks up against Kevin Gausman.
Former Jay.
Old friend of ours.
Oh, forgot. We were talking about bullpen pieces lost. That's a huge bullpen piece we lost.
Not a bullpen piece anymore. He's a starter, and he's been doing pretty damn good recently. We know that Jordan Hicks throws gas. And we know that Toronto Blue Jays players struggle with gas.
We struggle.
And then I was going to say that we were going to win this series, but now I'm starting to think
I'm starting to think we lose, man.
I'm starting to think otherwise now that I'm like, I didn't realize that we had Jordan Hicks on the last day.
Technically, they're a better team. This is a better matchup for them. Right. We're on the road. I feel like this has got to be a loss. Kevin Gausman, I mean, we've been struggling. Also, some of their guys just dominate against Kevin Gausman. Bailey's
Sophie's saying that Gausman's going to return, or he will win in his return to San Francisco. That's what she's saying.
That's another thing, too. Actually, this is his literal return. He has not returned since.
This is quite the game right here, everybody. I'm so split on this one. I think that Blue Jays lose. I think Blue Jays lose. You know what? I'm going to say Blue Jays lose just because, can you imagine if we won 2 series in a row? We'd start to think that we're good at baseball again, and, I just don't know if we're there yet.
Even if we win 2 games or 2 series in a row, it's like, well, okay, we go 4-2 in the last 6 games.
Right.
What does that mean?
We'd actually
realistically, what does that mean?
Yeah. Okay, no, I hear you. All right, well, we lose this one then, and it's going to be another depressing series.
Before we move on, guys, let's give a quick shout out to the sponsor of this live sponsor of this Blue Jays Today show. Come on, Nick, you can do it. It's Betway.
Whoa! Time for your daily Betway breather. A quick reminder that the best place to bet is on Betway. Must be 19 years of age or older to play. In collaboration with iGaming Ontario, please bet responsibly. Now, back to the content.
Shout out to Betway here, everybody, for being absolutely phenomenal. They are the freaking best, folks. If you've had any interest in betting on the Toronto Blue Jays or against the Toronto Blue Jays, they are the spot to freaking do it.
I did have a bet up, but it looks like the Betway site's a little bit down. That's a bad push right there. But the event has expired and is no longer available.
Wow.
I was going to bet on a team to make the playoffs, and it was the Boston Red Sox.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and it was a 2.4 multiplier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, there's better odds for them to not make it. So I'm thinking Boston Red Sox are going to make the playoffs. I think they're 15-4 in their last 19 games.
Boston Red Sox have been incredibly good at baseball recently, man. Like, the numbers have really come around for them. Like, they were really good to begin, and they weren't getting the record for it, and now they are getting that recognition and just picking together some wins. They just delivered it to the Yankees. Rafael Devers was insane yesterday.
Yeah.
They are a big shocker for me.
They are, and the odds are there to make them to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, guys, go check it out. Betway, huge sponsors of the show. Go bet responsibly.
Let's move on to the final segment of this video, everybody. Let's spin the wheel.
The spinning fortune ball, colorful, future determining, stat analyzing, and it's a wheel that we spin every week.
It is a wheel that we spin every single week,
Let's go.
folks. We've been spinning it, and it's getting tight, man. I had a big lead. Adam clawed his way back. Honestly, I'm kind of happy for it. You know, it makes things more entertaining moving forward. And at this rate, we just have no idea anymore, like, what the hell is going on.
No, I mean, for home runs, I picked George Springer, and I won.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
And then for K batters, I mean, Schneider, Varsho. Schneider got benched this week.
Mhm.
I mean, he still got the qualified plate appearances, but Varsho is just dominant. 8 strikeouts to Schneider's 5. And then Justin Turner had a baby. Who knew that was going to happen? And he didn't play, so that category got nulled. It's 18-18. It is your week now, Nick. Let's go spin that wheel.
All right, let's spin it, folks. What is it gonna be? I need some bonus players here. I gotta get my and I didn't get it. And we
runs.
This one sucks, man, because God only knows at this point, like, who's like, we don't even know who's leading off anymore. Like, sometimes it's Springer.
It's George Springer now. I think it's gonna be Springer for the remainder of the week.
Do I trust that George Springer is gonna be good again? He has been really good recently.
You want me to see some numbers?
Yeah, if I could see some numbers.
Let's see some numbers. Let's go to the hitting side of things. Last 15 days.
I feel like Springer is.
I mean, last 7 days, because this is kind of the lineup it's been. He is first, 6 runs. Yep. Vladdy 4, Bassitt. Yep.
Definitely be the choice. He's been pretty good. I think I have to. I think I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna go with Springer on that one. Locked in leadoff guy, most at bats.
I think so.
Been playing good baseball.
See, Rigo's saying Horwitz ? But Horwitz is literally getting benched, and that to me is scary. You know, Horwitz in the last 15 days, he's at 5th, but you got Isaiah Conorfella, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., George Springer all tied for 10th, and I think I got to go with my guy, Mr. Vladdy Daddy, just because that guy gets on base, that guy scores runs, he's a producer. He produces.
All right, yeah, Guerrero and Springer, everybody. Feels like those are going to be some consistent choices, I think, moving forward.
Oh, yeah. And then maybe IKF, you never know.
Could be IKF. RBIs now.
Okay.
I hate this one, man.
They're all
Because now it's like, what do you now? Guerrero at this point? Who got the most RBIs last week? Like, I probably Vlad, right?
Last week it was actually George Springer. Vladdy only got 2. Vladdy only got 2, and then it was Kirk at 4. Last 15 days. Obviously, Guerrero had that massive week, but him and Springer right up there, 19-16.
Okay, this sucks. This really sucks. I don't know what to do here because I really wanted to save my final one for the last thing, but like, I just don't know who else you pick other than Guerrero in this spot. Like, I really don't.
Right. You're thinking about saving it for the starters. Or would it even matter?
I don't know. Honestly, I guess I got to go with Vlad here. I got to go Vlad, and I'm just telling the story here that Springer's going to get on base and Guerrero will bat him in.
Yeah.
That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Is this your thing? I'll go Vladdy. I really wanted to pick Vladdy there too.
I mean, it felt like the only option,
That's it,
right?
yeah.
Like I wanted to go second here, but I just don't know who if I could.
I mean, I guess I'm gonna dip into yours and go Springer.
Wow.
That's it.
You're telling a weird tale, but you never know.
Hey, it literally happened last week.
It happened last week.
That's the thing. It's like guys in the bottom part of the lineup. ICAF could get on. I don't know.
Well, all right.
It's a weird year,
everybody. This is a weird Toronto Blue Jays season.
And I'm going to be picking this category. Let's see. It's the worst J. Okay.
Wow, I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
It's my boy with the fucking beautiful strikeouts.
Yeah.
Beautiful strikeouts. It's Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah.
I mean, it was between Kevin Kiermaier and Springer weeks before, but it's pretty clear now.
See, I got a couple options here.
You do,
man. I got
there's a lot of bad
Jays.
Jays.
Two guys that come to mind off the top is Davis Schneider
Yep.
and Danny Jansen, actually.
Not bad
surprisingly enough.
Not bad shows.
Also, too, Dalton
Varsho's been
god
ass,
awful. Can I see how bad some of these guys have been in the last little bit? Like,
take a look.
And also, too, the problem with this is you got to factor in the at-bats.
Yeah.
Because Davis Schneider's not necessarily playing that much.
You also have Bo Bichette. Although he's been cooking a little bit, I think.
Right.
Okay. Dalton Varsho, OPS of 432. Kiermaier, actually an OPS of 533.
Wow.
Did hit a homer the other day.
Varsho really bad.
Davis Schneider.
274. Horrible. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's about it.
Danny terrible as well.
Only 22 in 15 days.
Not
bad.
15 days. Wow. Okay, I think Varsho's so bad.
That's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout.
Babe is really bad too, but he's on the bench quite a bit. I'm gonna go Dalton Varsho.
Yeah,
Dalton Varsho's
he's gonna
terrible.
get playing time. He's gonna get playing time.
He's gonna get playing time, and he is just not playing well.
Yeah,
not playing well. So Dalton Varsho, everybody. That's the worst J, guys.
Remember we were picking Varsho for like home runs and RBIs. Now it's worst J.
How the mighty have fallen,
right?
Folks. How the mighty have fallen. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this Blue Jays Today show. If you enjoyed our trade deadline preview and prediction, please hit the subscribe button. Let us know in the comments down below what you think is going to happen at this trade deadline. There will be a lot more live streams and videos coming soon with all of the latest breaking news. I'm sure that things are going to really start to ramp up as we get into the All-Star break, and then moving forward past that, heading to that trade deadline. Speaking of the All-Star break, home run derby, All-Star game, all of the stuff, the draft that's coming up. We will be live for all of it, covering it on this channel, guys. Stay tuned.
Hey, Caden's saying we need a 24-hour stream one day. I mean, that's a big stream, but hey, we're going to have a massive stream on the trade deadline.
We could probably lock in close to a 10-hour one.
Yeah?
For sure.
Oh, yeah. I think the trade deadline last year was like close to that. It was like 8 or something.
Something like that for sure.
We'll have something like that, guys. So make sure to hit that like button if you're on YouTube and subscribe to Blue Jays Today. And as always, guys,